Hello everyone, I'm Kyosifer, an avid orbiter decorator. Thanks for all the support on my last video. I hope you guys learned a lot about Zephyr. Anyways, I noticed a lot of comments about my orbiter, which was very appreciated. Thank you very much for noticing the work I put in here, but also it really is quite easy. And in seeing those, I realized there's no great guide online about how to create an orbiter that looks good, especially one that does not require platinum to use. But yeah, basically everything in this orbiter was created without spending any platinum at all. I've got maybe like one or two or three or four couple decorations that are platinum based, but almost everything else was bought using materials that could be farmed relatively easily on the Plains of Duviri or within the Angels of Zariman. And I just wanted to create a quick guide about how I got the decorations that I use, and a couple of the building tips about how to use them, and where I like to kind of put them together, and a little bit of how I can use different decorations to create cool effects in my orbiter. Anyways, let's hop into it. First off, I'd like to talk about the dorm zone, which is conveniently the place that connects us to two of the best sources of decorations, being Acrithis and the Zariman, specifically Hombask. I'll begin first with Acrithis, which I believe has the best decorations and materials to work with, but you can also see whenever you get access to this thing will be filled with decorations. I personally only come here to trade with Acrithis, so I don't mind it being completely empty. You can get a lot of really cool stuff. There's a lot of cool potted plants and some other decorations that you can use for your orbiter. Everything from here is transferable to the orbiter, which is amazing. But anyways, let's talk to Acrithis. So to begin with, she's got her randomized set of stuff. These are things that are offered and rotating out every hour or every couple hours or so. Obviously, there's the stuff that rotates weekly, like the Orkin reactors and the Riven mod and the Forma and all that cool stuff. However, I'm more interested in the decorations here. These are offered with random Duviri resources, and they're just kind of a steady amount based on that resource. Generally about 20 or so, but for some like Mawfang, it's significantly less. There is a big discrepancy between these things. For example, you can see that the Sophalcia here is literally like all that I have for one decorations, whereas the Rune Marrow, I could buy like 20 of these. It's really important to look out for the deals that are great for you. Every decoration will basically have the same price regardless of size or complexity, which is cool, but also means that you kind of need to constantly check back here and see if Acrithis is offering something that fits the materials that you have. You generally want something that has a ton of either Agristone or Rune Marrow or whatever else you get whenever you play Circuit a lot, or if you actually run a lot of Duviri normal proper, then you can kind of buy anything, which is great. So these are kind of some of the great ones. There's a lot of potted plant stuff and that kind of stuff too that is great for making walls and things. I'll kind of show that off later. However, she has an additional menu, which is of the Enigma Gyrems. These are resources rewarded upon completing Enigma puzzles in the Plains of Duviri. I think they only show up on the normal mode, not the lone story mode, or in the Steel Path circuit, or not in the circuit period. But yeah, basically these are little puzzles you complete, and you get 1 to 5 Enigma Gyrems, depending on what puzzle it is. And if you have a resource booster, you get double that, which is incredible. I would basically never suggest farming these unless you have a resource booster, but these decorations are incredible. I think these are some of the best decorations in the game. This lectern especially, I think, is super versatile because it has a pivot point right here at the base, which allows you to put it into positions where it can clip through into objects and create really, really cool additional effects, which is super sick. Other stuff like the calculum is a great decoration for filling out a flat space. If you just want to decorate like kind of a side of an object, it's great for kind of being this flat decoration that also has this nice three-dimensionality to it. Other stuff, the modesty screen, I use this for my equipment. I think it's a great texture and kind of three-dimensionality as well, bringing stuff forward. But all of these have uses. I think none of these decorations are bad at all, and they all have great uses depending on what aesthetic you're going for. So that's Acrithis. I think you should always check back with her if you're interested in making a good-looking orbiter. Always check back with her whenever you have free time, and you try to get like just the big potted plants or the big artisanal pots or planter boxes, because those are super versatile, and I'll show that off in my orbiter a little bit later. And here is Hombask. So Hombask is the resident decorator on the Zeramin, and there's tons of stuff related to all the Zeramin decorations that are used. These are intended for your dome zone, however they can all be placed in your orbiter, which is amazing. All of these also are relatively cheap standing wise, specifically. The walls especially are massive, and they're great for texturing and kind of, or not texturing, but setting up an area for you to texture on and kind of redefining the shape of your orbiter. I would buy a ton of these. You can see I've got 24, and I probably need like at least 30 or 40 to complete my build fully. But a lot of these are great. I think another one of my favorite decorations from this place is the green plant, which makes a really nice overgrown and kind of decayed look for your orbiter, which is something that I love. Other stuff is here too, however it varies from either being unreasonably small, you can't really do anything with this, or unreasonably expensive, like this is 50,000 standing, like I'm not going to farm for this. If you know that this is something that you want, I think go for it, but I prefer to sit for the more pragmatically easy to get and quick to get decorations. Just because you can spam more of them and create a cooler effect. So, those are those two sources of decorations, the two best in my opinion. There are some other more niche sources of decorations. Generally the open worlds each have an NPC that offers some decorations. The most reasonable, I believe, is the Ticker from Fortuna. Ticker has great stock that is offered for debt bonds, which can be a huge pain to get early on. I know that a lot of people don't like them, the system that they've got for them. However, they are very plentiful later on in the Fortuna progress, so if you have no other reason to spend them, might as well spend some of them on decorations, because I think they look pretty solid, but depends on what aesthetic you're going for. Ticker is up here. You just kind of go check out his secondhand stuff. You see these got some things. I believe that these rotate, every week or every day. I'm not entirely sure. But these things are, good for a certain aesthetic. If you've got some idea of what you want to create, something that's Fortuna themed or kind of more robotic, or even Zeramin themed, these go great with Zeramin decorations. Pick some of these up. These are great. The next open world NPC with free or non-platinum decorations is Grandmother from the Plains of Deimos. We'll hop into that. Grandmother's oddities here obviously are where the decorations are, and these range from either being unreasonably expensive to quite reasonable. I think like these, for example, are quite cheap. Like 6 OTAC tokens is not hard to get at all, especially if you have a lot of surplus gems. However, other ones are quite frankly ridiculous in terms of price. Like this one is 10 sun tokens. Like that's triple or quadruple the value in terms of standing. And these ones are even crazier. Like this is 10 grandmother tokens, that's half a Seraglass shard. But if you check back here, you might find something that is worth the price, and these decorations do look great. So if you've got an infested theme going on, or these golden bits work great with Duviri theme stuff as well, because they share the same gold palette. So this is something I also recommend checking in with whenever you are here in the Cambient Drift. Finally, I believe the least worth it of these different decorations is the ones from Cetus. They look gorgeous, but they're just worth so much standing that I simply cannot recommend them at all. The ones here specifically by Old Man Sumbat are amazing. These spice racks and these big pots and the signs and stuff all look amazing, but they're 100,000 standing each, and it would take so much time and so much grinding to get enough of these to consistently create an aesthetic with them, even though they look gorgeous. So I'd stay clear of these unless you know exactly what you're doing. Otherwise, other solid decorations from Cetus are these ones, which the caged animals, I think these look great for a certain aesthetic if you're going for something more natural. These also are available for Plains of Eidolon resources. They kind of vary in being worth it or not. Sometimes they're super easy resources to get, sometimes they're quite hard. This I would generally not suggest because it's pyrotic, which is kind of a pain to get. But otherwise, check back here again whenever you get the chance. Those are the main sources of decorations that I've found. Other ones are kind of more niche, like Barokatir obviously offers stuff, and the syndicates have some decorations, but they're not super useful. and I believe those are basically everything you can get, except, oh right, the Prex Cards. So Prex Cards are these really cool wall decorations and kind of big posters. I'll quickly enter my decoration to kind of show you what they look like on both sides. You get these from the Livarian. If you have the Warframe depicted on them leveled to rank 30, you can find these hidden away within the Livarian. I would show you how to get that, but I sadly have already unlocked all of the ones that I have access to, so I can't really do that again. But you can just look up a guide online on how to get these. I think these are gorgeous and really, really nice for setting up a decoration for kind of sides of the wall. And yeah, just kind of basically taking together a lot of free stuff that you can get. Like all of these, like this is free, this is, you know, super cheap and easy to get. This is like 5,000 standing, this is free, awarded from a quest. This is from a puzzle. This is awarded from a quest, but also purchasable from Tesh and Dax if you want to get more. Some ayata statues, and all that kind of stuff. It really helps complement the stuff that you actually do pay for. You can just use the platinum for very small details, like again, this Breath of the Eidolon, or this Articula, or kind of more expensive decorations like Pedestal Prime and other stuff that works well. You basically, I find you want to have a lot of really, really big, broad, cheap materials to put around and kind of define a shape. These walls, these planters, all these things. And then you want something a little more niche, a little more kind of fancy, like these posters and some of the other stuff around here to really make everything pop. With those sources covered, I'd now just like to talk about some of the tips I use, specifically, again, how to use objects that kind of clip into each other to create really cool effects. You can see the hitbox of this thing, at least in terms of how the game processes it, seems to be basically tied to this bottom part, which means that for a lot of objects you can just clip into it unless this bottom part nudges up against it, which it won't even allow it to do, which is just amazing. So you can get these really cool effects where this kind of lectern thing is turned into a gateway, or kind of almost like a slot for the beam to cut through, which creates some really cool effects for the foundry and for your mod station. Other interesting tips I found were kind of concealing the use of these arches by using hanging lanterns, or using kind of this big pedestal here to kind of hide the base of it and just allowing for the top to come up. Or what I did back here, which is using these small Duviri mugs to set a kind of a golden decal on top of it. Generally, I think you just want to experiment around and toss around a lot of cool stuff. There are some interesting mechanics with the building functions itself specifically. I'm going to quickly throw in some objects just to kind of display that. Let's do mastery slates. I'll just do one of these. So if we place these down and we set it to grid snapping, let's just do 0.25 and make it as big as possible. You can hold R to make things larger or smaller, which is very useful if you want to cover a lot of space with less decorations. But you can see if we put these two things inside of one another in decorations, they will create these kind of like weird jiggly lines around the place. Sometimes it also happens on the front side, but it seems to happen here on the top. You can fix that by hitting R to enter constrained movement, changing your grid snapping to 0 or off, and then just ever so slightly nudging it above. Maybe a little more. And you can see this basically allows you to offset it by an amount which is very hard to perceive, but fixes the plane fighting issue. This is great for ceilings and stuff. You can see I put a ton of these walls here for the ceiling, and I had to do the same thing for kind of making them so that they wouldn't all overlap with one another. Other tips I've got are being sure to remember to use big and small pieces. These walls, for example, are varied sizes. This one, for example, is not actually rotated on the side. It's rotated like this. It's rotated on the side so you can fit in here, and it's shrunk down as well. And kind of similarly, this one is even smaller and shrunk down to fit this specific corner where these two walls intersect. Using things, even if they seem a little wasteful, is better than leaving awkward open gaps and using objects in a not great way. I generally suggest just trying to mess around with things and accepting the fact that you may need to farm more resources and more decorations than you expected. But yeah, that's basically it. This has kind of been how I approached my orbiter. I'll quickly show you the colors that I chose, just so that you can, if you want to copy this exact look with Deviri stuff, you can kind of take inspiration from these color choices, because they also complement the decorations. My primary color is this beautiful gray from the Katir palette, I believe. This one is not a perfect fit. You can see that they don't match exactly. This one's a little more green. However, everything else I found is either too yellow, this one's kind of not it, or too bright. Like, these are obviously way too bright. If I find a better color, I'll tell you about it, but so far, nothing's really pleased me. This one is fine, but seems a little bit too light when it comes to shadows and stuff. So I might need to figure out if I can buy the classic palette and kind of mess around with that too. But yeah, if you don't have the Katir palette, I think that is a perfectly fine choice. The classic, just free unlock this gray one. I just prefer this Katir gray. Otherwise, this is kind of just any golds you've got. This one is from the Twilight palette. This one's from the Beach palette. This white is trying to match the white of these kind of planter boxes, and it's from the Beach palette as well. And detail lighting is gold. Just because anything else I tried seemed to not really fit in and was too distracting from the rest of the impact of this build. Anyways, that's been my orbiter. I hope you have a good time kind of building your own out. It's really not that bad, and it really helps improve the feeling of being in your orbiter, kind of just chilling out or waiting for friends to group up for a mission. It's a really, really nice thing to work on and kind of put in place. So that's been it. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, I hope you the best of luck in your orbiter decorating adventures.